Greetings, I'm Professor K, and in this short video presentation, we're going to see how we can download and install OS Forensics onto our Windows 10 lab machine. You can download OS Forensics by going to osforensics.com/download, and on the download page, you will see that you have a link to download OS Forensics, the latest version. This free download comes with a 30-day free trial. The OS Forensics Suite by Passmark Software is a comprehensive set of tools designed for digital forensics investigations. It allows users to search, recover, and analyze data from computers and storage devices. Key features include advanced file searching, email and file recovery, drive imaging, memory analysis, and system information gathering. For this lab demonstration, I will be using one virtual install of Windows 10 Professional running inside of the VirtualBox Manager with the extension pack. Now, before we begin, I recommend that everybody do a snapshot of their current machine state before they install the OS Forensics software. That will allow you, if you need to, or if you want to, have another 30-day grace period of using the trial version of OS Forensics. So to do this, I've just gone up to Machine. I'm going to click on where it says Take Snapshot. I'm going to select the name for this snapshot as OS Forensics. And we'll just call it OS Forensics Install. I'll say OK to that. And the snapshot processing begins. Once the download has completed, go to your download location and just double-click the installer. During the install process, just accept the defaults. There's nothing else for you to configure at this time. To begin the installation, I'm just going to click the OK button. I will accept the agreement. Click Next. Select the location where I want the program to install. I'm going to accept the default. I'm going to add a Start menu folder called OS Forensics. I will create a desktop icon. Click Next and begin the install. There are three different methods of installing OS Forensics that you can use. One is the one that we're using currently, which is installing it directly to a disk. Number two is installing it to a USB drive. Number three is installing it and making it a bootable USB drive using Windows PE. For the purposes of this lab, installing it to a disk will suffice. On the information screen, you can read what's printed, and then you can click Next. When you're all done, you can go ahead and click Finish. If you want to launch OS Forensics at this time, leave the box checked. For this lab demonstration, I will be using the trial version, so I'm going to select that option. On the OS Forensics Start page, we have two primary windows. We have the left Windows pane and we have the right window pane. Now, the left window pane will contain every feature that is available in OS Forensics. Over here in the right window pane, you have what is called the workflow. This is customizable. If you have a normal workflow and you don't need all of these items, each one of these areas is customizable. To customize the area that is in the right window pane to match your workflow style, you just have to right-click and say Customize Workflow. This makes the right window pane very customizable, and you will only see the items that you would normally encounter or use in your digital forensics investigation. You can relocate and you can organize the items as you see fit using the up and down arrows as you see here. You can select an item and then you can move it to wherever you want it on this particular workflow page. Before we can begin to work with OS Forensics, we need to create a case. Now, to do this, we have one of two different ways we can do it. We can go to Manage Case or Create a Case. Now, we would normally go to Manage a Case if we already had cases created. But you also see that we have the option to create a new case with this feature for managing cases. Here, we're going to use the option to create a new case. The only mandatory field on this first page is going to be the case name. The rest of this you can fill in as you see fit. Let's give our new case a user-friendly name. One important area that we have to pay attention to is the time zone. OS Forensics will look at your machine and it will pick up the time zone currently that the machine is using. It is advisable that you use the time zone of the machine where the information or the evidence was taken from. By default, on the acquisition type, you see that the radio button is selected for investigate disk from another machine. Now this is fine for the lab work that we're doing. But if we were doing a live acquisition from a machine on site, let's say doing a auto triage, then we would select the button for live acquisition of current machine. Now by default, OS Forensics will log your case activity so that everything that you do up inside of the software can be logged, and that may be important for you if you need to do a presentation in a legal proceeding. Here we see that we also have additional fields that we can complete and put in additional information, such as the case narrative. This is all optional. Of course, this would be disabled during this particular trial period. And you'll see that we have customized fields that we can create. Also, the chain of custody is available. I'd also like to point out that you have the option to choose a case type. So you can pull down this window. It can be a criminal case. A criminal contains child exploitation material, civil, internal, confidential, or other. Once you have all your basic data inputted, go ahead and click OK. Now we have a case that we can manage. Now the next thing we have to do is to add a device to analyze. To do this, we're going to go down here where it says Add to Case, Device. Go ahead and click that. Now from here on, OS Forensics is going to do everything as read-only. It will not make any changes to any type of physical disk or image. So if we were on to a suspect's machine and we were using, let's say, a USB, well then I could mount that particular suspect's drive, and that's where we come in with the drive letter. And I could tell it which drive letter I wanted to use. And then I could mount the image. So here you see that we have two different modes. We have forensics mode and we have standard mode. Forensics mode will allow you to have a much broader capability of investigating or analyzing a different disk from a different machine, let's say a Linux machine. So I would be able to mount a disk that I've taken off of a Linux machine using forensics mode. Another big difference between forensics mode and standard mode is that in forensics mode, OS Forensics will ignore file permissions. It will just go ahead and do everything that you would like it to do without having to worry about permissions or restrictions. In standard mode, everything is adhered to as it is on the operating system. So if there are permission issues, that's what you're going to encounter with standard mode. Mounting an image is not recommended in OS Forensics. It is recommended that OS Forensics be given an image file that has been taken from the suspect's machine. So you would click on the image file option here. From here, you can browse to wherever you save that image. In this case, I have an image up inside of FTK image. I'm going to go ahead and open that up. This is an in-case image that we have been given. So I'm going to go ahead and select that image and I'll say open. We're then given the option to either use the entire image file or select one or more partitions. In our case, we can go ahead and use the entire image. And we'll click OK. Click OK one more time. Now that we have our case created and we have added a device, inside of Manage Case, we can select our case. You'll see that it has a green check mark, and we can tell it to load the case. And from here, we can go on over and we can begin the process of analyzing our image file. We can start off with system information, and we can tell it to scan that particular disk that we have given this case, and in a moment it'll come back with the information that we need. On this next screen, we're going to go ahead and select the largest partition, which is 816 megabytes, and then we'll select OK. OS Forensics has quickly scanned our forensics image of our suspect's machine, and now we have the system information we requested. And we can go through the left window pane, and we can do this with each one of these options that we have for analyzing these different artifacts. Now, if you're in a hurry to gather the information and time is important to you, then you can select the auto triage feature. Here we can go through and we can get everything that we believe that is important to us, and we can get that information very quickly into a report just by selecting that option for auto triage and clicking Start Scan. Now this may take a little while to complete, so do be patient. And it should be noted that the triage method should be done on a machine where we're running OS Forensics from a USB device. And it took just about 3 minutes for it to perform this auto triage procedure. And we have our first limitation of the trial version. The trial version of OS Forensics only captures a full screenshot. We'll say OK to that. So once OS Forensics completed its initial scan of the suspect's hard drive image, it then came up and it brought us to this page where we see the progress that it is going through in completing the triage procedure. And we have our next limitation of the trial version, which states that the trial version of OS Forensics only supports exporting a maximum of 10 items. We'll say OK to that. One of the features that we have of OS Forensics is that while it's working, you'll see that we have that pulsating green light. The blue light indicates that the activity has completed. For instance, our user activity, we can click on this and we can see all the user activity that was captured on this machine by OS Forensics. And so to summarize, we got to see how easy it was to download OS Forensics and use the 30-day free trial. We were introduced to how we can create a new case and how we can add an image device or an image file to that device for analysis. We also got to check out the auto triage feature of OS Forensics. I'm Professor K. Thanks for watching.